Hello and welcome back to the Sidewalk Report. Our issue for part 2 here of schools and the battle for young minds, that is going to be another lively discussion, and we are very fortunate to have Miss Yvonne Allen and Randy Ryan here to discuss further this topic, and we are also very lucky to have something in the fabulous question box. Yes, comes complete with sound effects. It's a Newcastle thrift store. Yep. And so one thing I wanted to ask is the pandemic year. And the kids, actually for some schools it was more than a year, that they were out of schools and they were suddenly doing cyber versus in-school learning. What impact do you think that had on their social skills, their emotional development, and all of that stuff, and also their progress in education? So who wants to jump on that first?
I will.
Okay.
I don't really, I'm not that up to date with what the research says about it. I can only speak about the stuff that I saw. I know at the time I was working in an elementary school, and I think it had more of an impact on younger kids than it would have older kids, because here's the thing, when you're that age, you're still developing. I mean, we're still developing as a teenager too, but for the most part, it's, the process is more significant, I guess, when you're a little kid, rather than when you're, getting ready to graduate. So, socially, we did see a lot of, kids struggling to interact. As far as their grades, they were very behind content-wise, a whole year or so, whatever that was. So it was like playing a lot of catch-up. What was the other part of the question? I'm sorry.
The other part of the question was, cyber school versus being in the school.
Okay, so yes, I actually, I got to do some teaching during COVID, and it was over the computer. Certainly not my preferred method. I don't think, this was 5 years ago, but looking back, I don't think I ever remember seeing a single student face on my computer. It was just, empty or blank, shut off screens, you know what I mean? So I was kind of just looking at my own reflection, and, so definitely not a lot of interaction. And it to me, what it did was it kind of removed the whole human element out of teaching. Because I think there should be that interaction. I think it's healthy to be in a class setting, and you know what I mean? Obviously, to have that distinction between school or work and home. I was saying before we went on the air here, I have two very good friends who teach at cyber schools, and they love it. So certainly there are benefits, to kids who don't want to be in an actual school setting and, prefer to learn online. And that, that's the thing. I just did an activity with my 11th graders last week. It had to do with the different forms of learning, kinesthetic, oral, reading, writing. So, we're all different learners. So, I would never discount it. I think it's a good thing that it exists, because I think that some people do need it and do benefit from it. I just wouldn't prefer to teach that way myself.
Do you think that, we're not in possession of all the studies and facts and stuff, but did you see an impact when the kids came back? Did you see them being at the level that you would have thought they were at?
That's the thing. They weren't. You know what I mean? And again, I was in an elementary school at the time, so I would hazard a guess. I'm not an expert on the subject, but I would, if I had to, take a guess, I would say that, the age played a factor. You know what I mean? Because, we're talking kindergartners, first, second, third graders, even up to fourth, fifth, and sixth grade. You know what I mean? They're still developing a lot and growing a lot. And I think, again, like I said, socially, and there was one grade in particular. It was more so the lower ones at the elementary school. We're talking K through 3. That they seem to be more impacted by it than the older kids. And I think, sorry, just one more thing I wanted to say. I think probably, again, not to keep repeating myself, but I think that, those are, just like with language skills, language acquisition, as people like to say, right? There's those critical years. I think something similar was probably going on with the socialization skills. There's that window where your brain and your mind, and it's taking it in and learning how to interact and talk and communicate and that sort of thing.
I want to ask you a question. Do you think that because of that is why the kids are so quiet? I mean, have you noticed they're like quiet and they lack all ability to have a conversation with a person? They lack all ability to go up to I realized my child was missing that, and I would make her go into Walmart and shop, something simple. What do you want to get yourself something? Sure. I want you to interact with that cashier. I want you to, I want you to have that interaction with people. I need you to be able to say, where is this located at in the store? She couldn't do that. Yeah. And I noticed that so many kids don't have no ability to talk anymore.
As far as it hurting them, I will say this. It certainly didn't help them. You know what I mean? And like I was saying earlier, the technologically oriented world that we live in today, even when I was in school, I graduated in 2008, I had a flip phone. That was my first phone. There's too much interconnectedness as far as being able to just get on the screen, and with social media and all this other stuff. I think it's desensitizing people, and particularly students, as far as making them less social. You know what I mean? And another thing that I noticed that it affects is, in addition to the language skills, is the interest capacity. A lot of students don't have any interests or passions, which is really kind of sad, scary, right? Because it is. And, it's especially, all the subjects are important, but as an English teacher, the importance of it for me, the main importance, unfortunately, we don't all read for pleasure. Mm-hmm. It would be nice if everybody did, but that's just not the reality of it. But I tell kids that, listen, after you leave here, you may never read Shakespeare, but you need to be able to read text and information. And I say, look at any of the shops you're in, right? No matter what shop you're in, you have to be able to read in some form, whether it's a menu, a blueprint, whatever, right? So that's part of it, right? And then the other part is communication, right? We need to be able to talk to each other. We need to be, reading, writing, speaking, listening, right? These are skills. That's what English is about, right? So regardless of whether or not you read Edgar Allan Poe after you graduate and after you're not in my class anymore, that doesn't really matter. You need to be a good communicator, because there's so many accidents in the workforce that are, and when I say accidents, I mean, that encompasses all kinds of things, people getting injured, people getting fights, misunderstandings, something like the whole spectrum, right? 90% of them are a result of miscommunication. I think it's 90%. It might be higher. It might be 95. So, we do try to get kids writing. We do try to get them talking more. With our seniors last week, we just did informative speeches. And, there was a lot of resistance there, but I had some guys, listen, I do this every day. You can come up here and talk, and sure enough, once they did it, they saw it wasn't that bad. Okay. But, of course, I gave them my feedback and everything too. But it's definitely something that, which, to the self-run policy we were talking about when we were off the air there, I think that does help. Because they're not staring at the screens the whole time. You know what I mean? They're looking at the book or at me or,
Well, so that, also, I'm sensing from both of you that they have less hobbies.
Yes.
They don't know what they want to do.
Yeah.
Do you remember, I remember being 14, you knew what you wanted to be, or you had an idea of what you wanted to be. Yeah. You said to yourself, I want to be a doctor. And then you went, and that was your focus. Yeah. I could ask my teenager right now, what do you want to be when you grow up? They have no idea. Yeah. They have never even thought about it. They for some reason, that thought is not even in their head anymore. It's they don't know what they want to be or where they want to go. Yeah. They have no idea. And then it scares me because of the communication, like you're saying. How can you get a job?
Right.
Even if you're working at McDonald's, you need to be able to talk to your customer. Yeah. You need to be able to communicate. Yeah. And it seems like they no longer talk. And even when I talk to my daughter, I go, are you calling these people on the phone and talking to them? No. No, she does not talk to any of them on the phone. It is all through texting.
Yeah.
They spend all their time texting, so they don't even talk no more to each other.
Right.
I mean, the phone, they don't call their friend. They text their friend. Everybody's texting.
Well, texting also has really condensed language.
Sure.
Yes, it has.
Vocabularies, I think vocabularies have probably shrunk.
Gone.
Yeah.
It is gone.
Yeah.
It is missing.
Yeah.
It's just missing.
Yeah.
You'll get a you for you.
Mm.
You're like, that's not how you spell
No.
Yeah.
I try to avoid doing that. I don't use shorthand when I text. I mean, I'm not worried about being grammatically perfect when I'm sending a text message, but it's, I will never use the letter U for you. I've never stooped to that level.
But I do think our language has definitely
It's gone.
Condensed so much more, and just mind wandering and stuff in writing.
Well, even if you look at social media, like, I have Facebook.
Yeah.
Right? Which is, Facebook's okay. You can upload pictures, but you can also write posts.
Yes.
There's less of that now because, with Instagram and Snapchat and all the other ones, it's mostly just photos.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
or single sentences.
So, you have that diminishing as well, even on the social media level.
Do you think that is impacting the attention span?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, if you look at TikTok, it's like you just swipe from one video to the next.
Yes.
It's that instant gratification.
Yes.
And then, no one has to pay attention to anything for an extended period of time.
They're not even, it's like they're not even focusing on one thing, like you said. It's just scrolling.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, I don't understand how you can even, it's like one video after another video after another video, and it's just scrolling and scrolling. They're not even really watching anything. It's just a scrolling.
I've had people that have liked my posts, and then I see them not long after, and they say, "What was your post about?" And I say, "Well, you liked it." So that to me tells me that they're just scrolling and pressing buttons.
Yeah.
Not that I care. I don't care who reads my post or not, but you get my point, So it's like.
Well, then the actual sort of reading comprehension and the things that you have read, like staying with you, that has been.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
that's
for sure.
Yeah.
It is a challenge. Let me tell you. There is a pretty. I think it's thorough. The way that we approach the writing process with these kids, there's a methodology to it. We use what's called one of the things we use. There's a few of them, but one of the things we use that we haven't gotten into yet is called RACES, RACES, and it's an acronym: restate, answer, cite, explain, summarize.
Mm-hmm.
So we break down each of those letters. We usually give the kids graphic organizers, and like I said, it's tough. You know what I mean? Because we'll have an essay, and we'll look at it, and we'll say, okay, we read it together. They read it on their own, and then it's like, okay, well now use this format to break it apart. So restate the question, answer the question, cite your examples, explain how they are thorough examples, and then summarize. Right? So it's, we really break it down, and then we even break down the parts that it's just like down the line. So that's kind of how we approach it. And most of the time it seems to be effective, but it's a lot. Sometimes it's a lot to try to take in all at once, for sure. Especially how the world is now with, most of the entertainment being relegated to TikTok and things like that. So, it's an adjustment for them, but most of them do well with it. So,
well, that is good. That is encouraging. Now, how with regard to cyber versus in school, let me see. I know that some students are being given the option of being cyber only, but I mean, there's many people have said, like, cyber and homeschooling, they're missing a lot of the interaction, and the day-to-day things that you have to do with, like, sharing space with others. And
I on that note, as a parent during cyber, I'm not gonna lie, I love it, but then again, I have a child that I trust. And so sometimes even when I couldn't be there, she knew what she was supposed to do. And she is the not show her face person. That was instantly, that was probably the first thing she did was turn that off. And she knew what was expected of her. So even though I couldn't necessarily supervise every single thing, I could still go in there and see what she did. And I actually homeschooled her for 2 years. I did not let her go back to Newcastle until 7th grade. So I homeschooled her for, I want to say, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. And the reason why I did that was because I saw that she was having problems. I saw that she was having problems relating to, seemed like situations. They seemed to, I can't really put it into words, but she had an issue.
Yeah.
So I felt, well, me and her dad were like, okay, well, let's take her out. And so I homeschooled her, and I didn't send her back to Newcastle until she was in 7th grade. And I felt it was because she could articulate better what was going on with her, or say something, or because prior to that, her articulation was nothing, and it was the social interaction that I also felt she was missing.
Sure.
And I said, she's already wanting to be by herself. She's already, they got everything in their room they could possibly have. Yep. They got their TV, their DVD player, their video games, their cell phone. So that is where they want to be. They want to be in that room. They don't want to be outside. They don't want to socialize. So that is one main reason why I stopped homeschooling her and sent her to Newcastle in 7th grade, because of that. She needed to learn to make friends, to talk, to have that sort of engagement that she wasn't getting, by cyber. That's what they're missing. They don't have that socialization skills.
Right.
They lack it.
And that's the end of it as a teacher for me that I wouldn't like, is not having that face-to-face interaction with the kids. Again, I like the classroom setting. I like the separation of work and home. And I think it's good on a number of levels, honestly. Again, I don't discount cyber schools. I think they are good for some kids. But again, I do find it hard to argue that they're not losing that socialization, because
let me ask you
really
a question. Why do you think that some parents in Newcastle are choosing to say, I'll cyber school my kid? Why do you think parents are saying that more now than what they've ever done before?
There could be a number of reasons for that. Just in general, I know that there have been, there's instances I know of personally. There's things like articles and things that I've read where students were getting horribly bullied, so they pull them out. So that's, or maybe they are not a fan of the district. That could always be a possibility. Those would be the two main reasons that I can think of. I don't know how much of it. A third factor could be the kids wanting to do it, which, maybe their parents are hitting them out on that, because, how can you say if, again, like my good friend that teaches for Reach and my other good friend that teaches for Agora, it'd probably be difficult to say that every kid that they teach is there just as a result of their parents' choice. Maybe some of them wanted to be there, and, so, as far as factors go, I think those would be the three main ones. I can't really think of any others off the top of my head. But I'm sure there are other reasons.
Speaking along those lines, do you see bullying going? How is that going? Like, are you like guys solving the issues along with that, or?
They're fortunately, it's a very nice work environment. There's not, I don't see amongst the student population really much bullying. It's not too much of a problem. We haven't had students that have, come to us or administration saying, we're being terrorized by this bully. So, to answer your question, no, it's not much of a, I don't know what would contribute to that, to be honest with you. But I do know that it's not, certainly not a major issue that we're faced with, which I'm very glad, because bullying is a very horrible thing. I suffered from it.
Yeah.
I went through it,
I
and
think we all
we all
Yeah.
probably have, which is weird because I was the biggest kid in my grade, and I still got picked on. So
Yep.
it's, I don't know.
I think that
It's,
I find that the kids are more accepting.
I think that's.
Do you find
yeah,
that?
and
Do you see that?
Well,
I think what comes along with that though is that they're more accepting of transgender. They're more accepting of of whatever sex you choose to date and that I see that the kids are more accepting of that. And so there's like when I was in school, you didn't see two girls holding a hand.
mm-hmm.
You didn't see, you didn't see that interaction.
Right.
Whereas now, when I would pick my daughter up from school, I would see that. And I think that they're more accepting. But also on the other hand, I think that the media at this age has confused so many of them, because in my daughter's, just her group of friends, like they change their sex and gender every other week. Like this week, they like girls, and then next week they like boys, and then it just goes. And then they're changing their name from, and they want to be their friends. They want to be called, their friends call them something totally different.
Yeah.
I think that is. I like the acceptance part, but the confusion that I feel that they're all going through by 10th grade of who they are and how they fit in is the issue.
Yeah.
Do you think that some of that is really that they are just not happy in their own skin? And so trying on a new identity, it's almost like an avatar.
Yeah.
It's like, let me try on a new identity. Okay. For this week, for today, I'm a new person.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying on this new identity. That helps them.
Yeah.
That's a good point. You actually made. I wonder if that is what they're doing, because my daughter does it also. And I noticed that in the group of friends that she's in, they all have other names. Well, that are not their name, but they're like who they want to be.
Right. I think I was actually I did a little bit of informal research before this broadcast, because I thought the subject of, changing names and changing gender and
Genders.
stuff. Now the gender and the changing name thing and stuff, kids also and people online, they pick an avatar.
Yes.
And stuff. So, for a lot of people, especially girls growing up, we get these pictures of unrealistic expectations of what we should look like and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, could it really be like what they call body dysphoria, where you don't really like or accept the body that you're in? And so then, okay, my name is now this, or I am now that, just having, another person or image that you would really want to be, that could be something that's behind that. And could it also, my friend also said that it could be almost like a cry for help in some ways.
Yeah, I agree.
You do?
Yeah.
I
not in a bad way, but
just saying I don't like myself.
Right, that's all.
So I want to be, a different person totally. I just wanted to start over fresh.
I noticed that sort of happening because my daughter's voice is different than the rest of us, and she's even different than my voice. And I noticed that when she was probably in about 2nd or 3rd grade, she would come home and say that the kids say I talk like a boy. My voice sounds like a boy's. And I would go, no, honey, your voice sounds like that because of, your thing. But I do know that she would say that often, all the kids are saying that my voice sounds like a boy. So I was like, oh boy, okay. Well, you try to put it in perspective for your kid, but I did start noticing that like you're saying, they're picking apart, like, how they look or like how stupid, how your voice sounds like a boy. Jesus.
We as a country, we always seem to say so many times that we like individuality and that we like these rugged individuals and these people who are, creative and who are on their own path and everything like that. But if you look a little different, like when I was growing up as the redhead with spaghetti hair and stuff like that, all of us can sort of tell tales of that. At one point in time, we're all kind of, just kind of ridiculed a bit for the one thing that makes us a little different. But we're a society that doesn't mandate conformity. Like there's other countries that at some point in time they really like mandate conformity. In their education system and stuff like that. We don't really have as much rigidity with that. But it's interesting that we're more flexible, but at the same point, like if you step out of the line a bit, then someone's going to point that out.
Yeah. The other thing too about the as far as acceptance at the CTC is concerned, I think probably, and this will kind of answer the bullying question too. I think one of the things that helps is that the fact that we get kids from all over Lawrence County, which is pretty cool if you think about it, because a lot of times you have kids that are, they have their friend groups from their home school, but it's nice because they get to meet kids from other school districts, which is, like when I was in school, I graduated from Newcastle. We just mainly knew the kids and hung out with the kids from Newcastle. So they kind of get to, as far as, it's kind of like the opposite of cyber school in that sense, in that, they're getting to meet more kids from different areas, same area, Lawrence County, but different townships and things like that than they normally would have, which I think is part of the fun of it.
Yeah, I would agree. That was one main reason why. I mean, other than the fact it was commercial art, and since I'm a commercial artist, and I and she's also an artist, a good one, that I steered that way. But I'm speaking also as a Black parent, and so I have a Black child, and so for her, and you're dealing with kids from other areas, you worry about what is going to be said. And she is there at VOTEC that I see as a parent there is a limited amount of Black students. There's not that many that are there. And she's, everybody's view is not the same, so when she is coming in contact with these other kids from other schools, you have no idea what is going to come out their mouth. 10th grade, I did not have much of an issue. But now in 11th grade, I have an issue with something being said that I felt racist. And so as a Black parent, I see VOTEC differently. I look at it and I see how many Black students are going to this school that is going to have to deal with kids that are coming from Mohawk, kids that are coming from the Shanty, kids are coming from Shenango, and they're bringing those views and those opinions that they have at their school, they're bringing that to VOTEC with them. So now you have to teach your child how to deal with something being said to them that as a parent is racist, and you try to put it in a way for your child to explain it to them. So now you have to answer a whole bunch of different questions, and you have to deal with a whole bunch of new things now. Like I said, in 10th grade, I didn't really have that much of an issue. Now at the beginning of this year, I have an issue I have to deal with, concerning that. So I think that is different. We, as a Black parent, we look at everything differently. I look at the ratio of Black to white students. Is it going to be like fair? You feel like, is it going to be fair? That's how I look at the situation.
Well, I think the issue, like the numerical ratio is one thing, but really it's like, will the school be responsive?
Yes.
Will the school welcome everybody, and will the school, like if there is a bullying issue or
of course
a racial issue, will the school be attentive?
Of course.
And because I know I'll confess right now, I was a serial mover.
Okay.
And I've lived in a lot of different states and stuff like that. I mean, I just had it for a while there. I had Allied van lines on speed dial.
Okay.
And I went to some places that were just like so different. I lived in a very, very small town, small farm town in South Dakota for a while. And as an ethnic Italian, I'm going in the grocery store and I'm thinking like, where's my parm? And
yes,
you know what I'm saying?
And they're like, what?
Yeah, and then I mean, I lived in New York City, and I went to Chinatown.
Yes.
And went shopping there and stuff, and they had smoked tofu, and they had like 1,000 varieties of tea and stuff like that. And for me, I always think food first, because I worked in that industry.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's a good industry.
But I think for the kids and stuff, I think one of maybe just because I worked in food, I think one of the great unifiers is food.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the great things about this town, that we have, the Syrian food, and that we have. And so,
we have a restaurant trades program at the CTC, which is phenomenal. They're actually cooking lunch for us tomorrow, which I'm very excited. They do lunches for the teachers. Every week or so, they'll put out a menu. It's really good. Like, it's restaurant quality food. But I mean, the culture there, again, it is very welcoming, I think. And
and I mean, I can't speak, as I'm not Black, obviously, and I'm not a Black parent either. But I think just one of the great unifiers is food, and then also the Hoyt, like they always have exhibits for just all different cultures and everything like that. And so I'm thinking that that's sort of like an icebreaker. I know that you can't undo someone else's bad parenting.
One of the things I do for all my grades is at the beginning of the year we do an icebreaker activity. And I learned when I was in college that there are 3 things that are more or less universal that you can talk about with everybody. One of them is food. Everybody has a food they like, and if they say they don't, they're probably lying, because I'm sure everybody has some kind of food they like. Movies, right? Pretty much everyone watches movies, or I tell them movies or TV show, and then music. Pretty much everybody listens to music. So there's a few things I add to it, but the point of it is get to know each other, where you're from, what shop you're in, get to know me, I get to know you. It's good the whole way around. So that's.
And her teacher this year did that. She brought home she sent home a packet, and she wanted us as parents to tell her about our kid.
Oh, okay.
Like, it said something to the effect is, what do you think your kid likes to do or likes to watch? And it was like questions like that. The packet that the parent had to fill out and then give back to her, so she could see what we thought of our kid.
Right.
And she did that.
Very cool. With one of her academic teachers?
Miss McVicker.
It's right across the hall from me.
Yeah, that's
my mentor teacher.
Yeah, that's what she did this year.
Yeah.
She did that this year, and I loved it.
Yeah.
Like, the parent got to say, like, what do you think your kid about your kid? Every question was related to what the parent thought of their kid. So
right.
I did like that.
That's quite a bit. She did.
I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, it was a packet. First day of school.
Put you guys to work.
That was her packet.
Very nice.
But I think it's important to have like an open dialogue
at
the schools.
Yeah.
If there are instances where there is insensitivity or hate or stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, if the door is closed to communication, that is that's where there's a big problem. We have to keep those doors open.
Definitely.
All right. Well, that's it for now. I wish that we could go on much longer. We have great speakers today. I thank you to Randy and thank you to Yvonne. And this has been the Sidewalk Report, Schools and the Battle for the Young Minds. Very, very thankful. This is part 2 that we are here and that we've been able to talk about this. And big thank you also to Game Changer Studios for having us. And they are located in the Cascade Galleria Mall. Thank you again. Hello, and thank you for watching this episode of the Sidewalk Report. Stay tuned and keep an eye out, because we will have more episodes on this and other topics. Questions, thoughts, comments? Do share. I am Dante, and this is the Sidewalk Report.